This is very exciting, everybody. We're in a time of war. There appears to be a war on artificial sweeteners right now. Fitness professionals don't like them. Crunchy granola hippies don't like them. They definitely don't like them. The medical community appears to be ho-hum. There isn't a single organization that blatantly endorses the consumption. There's always a consistent beating around the bush. Focus on drinking water. Limit the consumption of soda. Discourage the consumption of anything but water and tea. Best to avoid anything that's not water. These statements, they're paraphrased essentially from the American Heart Association, dietary guidelines from other countries, U.S. dietary guidelines, other public health organizations. It's no secret that uncontrolled intake of added sugar is a public health issue, okay, with sugar. There's legitimacy with metabolic derangement and weight gain from added calories. Artificial sweeteners, on the other hand, they don't tell the same story. They don't tell the same story in theory. They don't tell the same story in the lab. They don't tell the same story in everyday life. Despite all the smoke, there's just no fire. And for reasons I'll discuss momentarily, artificial sweeteners are consistently under attack. The amount of anger and passion for artificial sweeteners compared to the amount of evidence that justifies the anger and passion is severely discombobulated. Technical term. So before we dig in, I want to make something clear. And to do that, we must put on our thinking caps. Okay, we must put on our thinking caps. Okay, the thinking cap is now on. All right. The most important thing when it comes to artificial sweeteners to get the desired effect, sweetness, is that we only need to consume a minuscule amount. Okay? I hail from Generation Yellow Packet. For the sake of my own biases, we will consider Splenda for that reason. All right, much better. The so-called main ingredient in Splenda is sucralose. The chemistry of this molecule is out of the scope of this material, but it is interesting nonetheless. It is a chemical cousin to actual sugar, but there is no direct metabolism into energy-yielding biochemicals. That it is modified so that it does not fit into the digestive enzymes that break down sugar in food. Okay? In other words, you poop most of it out. Okay? It is one of the most heavily studied food additives in history, with 100 times the safety profile of 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Basic arithmetic would then dictate that a 200-pound person could safely consume nearly 40 packets of Splenda per day. All right? And when you take the 100x safety profile into account, that means you could consume like 4,000 packets of Splenda per day for like 20 years. And the statistical likelihood of an adverse event associated with toxicity is minimal. All right? And just to keep things as absurd as humanly possible, on an acute basis, when you do that math, Splenda is safer than water. If those safety values were extrapolated gram for gram to table sugar, it would be like 320 grams, or almost 3/4 of a pound of sugar. This is a level of sugar that would definitely be toxic in a relatively short amount of time. To a sedentary person, at least. Never mind the 100x multiplier of 75 pounds of sugar per day. Definitely sounds safe. Definitely. Does this mean Splenda is harmless? Absolutely not. One time I tore open a packet of Splenda while sprinkling it over my oatmeal. I breathed in just right and caught a bit of powder in my windpipe. It was so irritating I had to cough once. Buyer beware. There are plenty of natural things that kick your ass in tiny amounts. Think about it. Botulinum, diphtheria, cyanide, shiga, herpes. As it turns out, if a tiny amount of something screws you up, we figure it out pretty fast. Now, I understand that low doses of some things can be toxic over long periods, but since sucralose's discovery like 45 years ago, my own personal long period meter of determining pernicious toxicity has been exceeded. If you wish to wait it out another 15 years, be my guest. At that rate, you can be sure it's about as toxic as oxygen. Something else to consider. We don't even consume a single type of artificial sweetener all the time. A typical diet has a wide array of sweeteners, each with their own safety profile. Now, that doesn't mean there's a larger chance of getting sick, but quite the opposite. This means that you shrink the relative consumption of each one by consuming a variety of them, which further improves the safety profile. So if I recall, readjust the thinking cap. If I recall, not that I was actually there, but like in the 70s, all the hoopla surrounding artificial sweeteners started around then. It turns out some unlucky mice were just about drowned in saccharin and it made them sick. They were fed a diet that may have been eating blocks of artificial sweetener. Ended up getting a little bit of cancer. Kind of sad, right? But the cause of cancer, as it turns out, was non-translational to humans. The poor little dudes died in vain. At this point, with this evidence, it is clear to me that number one, with a meaningless amount of calories, there's no direct impact on body weight gain. Number two, it is a practical impossibility to overdose on them. And number three, the toxicity is somewhere between water and oxygen. So now that we have that covered, what about all this other stuff angry health nuts have dug up? I took some notes here. Let's see the notes. There's so much stuff. Okay. What happens when the body consumes something sweet, but there's no nutrition to back it up? It turns out a laundry list of stuff could happen. Could happen, all right? There might be an increased amount of cravings for sweet foods. Might be a decreased enjoyment of natural foods, an altered gut microbiome. Transient changes in glucose tolerance, jacked up hunger and fullness cues, skewed perception of calorie intake, as if anybody has any idea what they're eating now anyway. Decreased perception of calorie intake, leading to indirect increases in food intake. Oh, I had a Diet Coke, that means I can have 2 burgers. Drinking artificially sweetened drinks and eating artificially sweetened foods instead of nutrient-dense whole foods. Increasing the consumption of co-ingredients to artificial sweeteners, like caffeine and artificial colors. Each with their own raging wars to contend with, right? And yes, okay, even though some of these make sense when you first hear them, none of them are substantiated, all right? Even if they were, none of these things leaves me with any sense of urgency to change public health policy. With my current understanding, none of these things are actually dangerous. Inconvenient? Maybe. But right now, potholes are a bigger health concern, okay? And since I mentioned gut microbes, I'm sure a lot of people's eyes lit up and the fire started brewing in them. People love gut microbes. And before you get excited, I'm not convinced minuscule amounts of anything have a profound impact on gut microbes. People take massive amounts of probiotics and you have to keep taking them to maintain any trace. That means the microbes in the capsule don't actually become part of your microbiome. They are unwelcome intruders, even if they're unwelcome intruders with health benefits, all right? You have to do the most extreme procedures, like sharing poop, like poop transfer between poop chutes to make any lasting change, if it's done perfectly. And even then, the gut microbes still revert back, man. They go back, okay? And most importantly, people care about gut microbes because it's the new catch-all for the health-conscious conspiracy theorist. It's the latest thing we can poke and blame for the current state of affairs. Not to mention, it's a new way to judge people about the way they make decisions. That's the most important thing. So with the current state of the art, I'm not sure how an already healthy person can consider their gut microbes in health decisions, but more power to them, okay? So we know there's at least some evidence that artificial sweeteners may help a tiny bit with weight loss in uncontrolled settings. If you combine that with the fact that the evidence for hurting us is basically nil, then what's the big deal? Here is where things get spicy. And this is where we move beyond science and into the realm of feelings. And if we move into the realm of feelings, you know what that means? It means we can take off our thinking caps. Now it's coming from the heart. Feelings. Okay? There is no war against artificial sweeteners in and of themselves. The war rages with what artificial sweeteners represent to the global health community. From crunchy granola hippies all the way to the stiff-lipped cardiologists. It's the idea of artificial sweeteners that's a problem. Generally, artificial sweeteners are, well, artificial. Some, not all by a long shot, of the research is funded by industry, also something that gets people's knickers in a twist. They are manufactured and distributed by large companies whose main goal is to sell more artificial sweeteners. For that reason, they are used as additives to processed foods, another four-letter word, and many of those foods do contain calories, or most all of them. Okay? Does any of this have anything to do with artificial sweeteners? No, not really. Behavioral economics has nothing to do with artificial sweeteners, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. If a sedentary person consumes a diet that consists of highly processed foods and large amounts of sweeteners, and the overbearing Fit Pro tells them to cut out all artificial sweeteners, this poor person would have to massively change their behavior overnight. For most, this is enough to avoid the change process entirely. For others, they may attempt some form of change for weeks or maybe even a few months, but in either case, this is something that has been proven over and over not to work, okay? In other words, at FitChick58 is putting that person on a path to failure, okay? You may as well just tell the person to stop being fat. It's about as effective. These people are making perfect the enemy of good enough, okay? The war against artificial sweeteners is misguided in promoting further pushback for people that really do need to change their behavior in the name of health. Okay? There's a meaningless number of people that consume water as their only beverage. You know why people don't want water? They want not water. Telling people they should avoid artificial sweeteners like the plague is hilariously inappropriate advice for anyone that actually needs the help. Okay? The overall mood surrounding things like artificial sweeteners is in the health community or fitness community is that you shouldn't consume them instead of calorie-dense foods, or that you should even limit the consumption, but the mere thought of artificial sweeteners should make you shriek and dial poison control. It's an absurdly self-righteous point of view that serves to help no one. Okay? There is no compelling evidence for their harm. There's no compelling evidence for their benefit either. That means there's no compelling evidence to be an alarmist, condescending a-hole about it. I have personally worked with over 1,000 people that have lost fat and kept it off by incorporating artificial sweeteners in lieu of calorie-containing foods. It's no secret that weight maintenance is exponentially harder than weight loss, and given the legitimate impact fat loss has on public health, I will unapologetically use any tool in my toolbox to make it happen.